Oh, Stadia, Stadia, Stadia. This thing is just such a joke at this point, but hey, at least it gives us something we can make some content out of, right? But before we get into the news, I hope everyone's having a good day. We're doing really good on the channel now. We're above 50 subscribers. We're halfway to the goal of 100. So thank you all for watching the content, clicking the buttons, doing all the good stuff. I really appreciate it. If you're not yet subscribed, maybe go take a look at the rest of the channel, see if it's something that you'd be interested in. And if you are, a subscription would be appreciated. Also, something new that I'd like to mention. On the 15th of May, a good friend of mine is opening up an online retro game shop called Pyro Games. They do ship abroad to other countries, but obviously some exceptions do apply. There'll be a link in the description below if you want to head over there and check it out. I do actually have a discount code for you if you want to go there. It's a one-time use code and it's good until the end of 2021. Just enter consoles only at the checkout and you'll get 10% off your entire order. And at this point, I do need to stress I am not sponsored by the shop. I don't receive any money. I don't receive any free products. I don't get any cut of the sales from the coupon. I don't get anything at all. I'm just plugging the shop because it's cool. I buy my retro stuff from there and it would be cool to see other people going there as well. So yeah, check it out if it interests you. But with all that said, let's move on to what this video is actually about. So Stadia has basically now added a search function to their service, and Stadia is generally awful, I find, and I think a lot of people feel the same way, but they've finally added this search function after 526 days, which is what, a year and a half-ish, something like that, and also a way to sort your collection of games and, you know, keep track of all those games that no one's buying. And trust me, the jokes and memes have already been made in an absolute abundance, which is awesome to see. But this is Google, you know, the people that make the most widely used search engine on the planet, and they just added it to Stadia. Doesn't that sound, I don't know, my brain hurts trying to think about it, but why would Google, of all people, not have added a search feature to this before the service was launched? It just doesn't make sense. Or it says exactly how much they care about Stadia, which is clearly not very much at all. I mean, the service was basically awful from conception right the way through till release and well after that as well. It just doesn't perform very well in any meaningful way. Stadia has under 200 games on it. And from what I hear, you need a pretty good internet service to make full use of it, which, you know, a lot of people don't have. I've obviously never used it myself because, you know, if I wanted to waste money, there's about a million other things I'd rather spend it on. But I hear from various places on the internet that the service is kind of spotty at best performance-wise. Of course, for some people, it's probably perfect and runs exactly as it's intended to, but I've seen a lot of people say there's a ton of latency, but then I've seen a lot of people say there's absolutely no latency. So, as I said, I've not used it, so I can't really comment on whether it is good or is bad in that sense, but the feeling I get online is that it's not great. But I think when you start taking into account all of the other things that this quote-unquote service provides, or perhaps doesn't provide more accurately, is where you start to see the problems. As many others and myself have said, on paper it seems like a good idea, but the fact that you have to pay full price for games on this service, especially older ones, you know, things like Assassin's Creed, come up at full price, and they've been out for years at this point. And when you do that, you don't own the game, and you can't even download it to local hardware, at least as I understand it right now. And, you know, please don't invest money into this service, because when it dies, and you know, it will, you'll lose absolutely everything you've invested into it. Google is absolutely notorious for killing off their services. I believe there's a whole website out there called Google's Graveyard or something similar that basically chronicles all of the things that they've shut down over the years, and if I can find it, I'll link it below. But it just goes to show how many ideas they throw at the wall hoping something will stick. They don't really have any direction. They're just a kind of try everything company, and when it fails, they just throw it away, which is sort of the world we live in today, unfortunately, but that's a whole nother story for another day. As a collector of physical games, this service was an absolutely abysmal idea to me from the get-go. There's just not a chance in hell I would ever engage in it. Funnily enough, I actually kind of feel the same way about Game Pass on Xbox, and don't get me wrong, it's a far better deal and generally a better service all around, leaps and bounds ahead of Stadia's crappy offering. But I just don't like the idea of all my games being digital. And yeah, okay, Game Pass allows you to download it to your local hardware, and if it's an offline game, you can probably play it offline, I believe. But I worry that when the day comes that consoles no longer have disk drives or cart slots in the case of, the Nintendo Switch, I just fear that I won't be interested in them enough to buy into them, so I'll sort of miss out on all the new stuff, and that's kind of a sad thing, and maybe it's just the way the world goes. I'm getting older, everyone's getting older. I think if the day comes where we don't have these physical copies of games at all, or where the only way you can get a physical one is places like Limited Run, and I imagine loads of them will spring up, and they'll be fighting over who gets, the exclusive rights to do a limited print run of a given game. I just don't know what it'll be at that point. I mean, I think the only way I'd be able to really stomach it is if I got well known enough on YouTube, on the internet in general, to be allowed review codes for the purposes of reviewing a game, and then at least I would have not paid for the games, I suppose. But even then, I still don't really know if I would want to do that. It sounds kind of scummy in a way. The only reason I'm taking or playing the game is because I got it for free, right? But that's not really what I'm doing. I'm not trying to get games for free to get them for free. I'm saying that I want to actually own my games. So paying out loads of money for one that I don't physically own feels just off to me. It's like going to buy a car and then you just don't take the car home. It's kind of strange. It's weird to me, but either way, adding this search bar to Stadia is really a nothing piece of news, I suppose, but I thought it was kind of relevant to me as a physical collector, and I just wanted to weigh in on it. Basically, it's something that should have just been on the service from the beginning, and the people working on Stadia, or perhaps it's the higher ups and the decision makers that literally have no idea what they're doing with Stadia. And honestly, it really shows. Things like this really show where Google's mind is at, as a company with this service, with Stadia. It was flawed when it was designed, it was flawed when it released, and it's still flawed now. And I just cannot see it ever recovering to the point of being a worthwhile service. And from what I understand, Google's lost a lot of money trying to get games onto their service, paying out millions and millions just to get games onto their service, and well, the service isn't really doing very well. It's just not a very good value proposition for people, and I think even people that enjoy digital games, this might be a little bit of a step too far for them. And that's the long and short of it, really. But now I'd like to hear from you guys. What do you think about Google Stadia? Have you tried it? Do you use it often? Is it something you just think, nope, not touching that? Anything that you want to say, just let me know down in the comments. And remember, we're heading to 100 subscribers, hopefully, so if you've watched this video to this point and you want to help me get there and you enjoy this content, please do consider subscribing. It helps me out, it gets the channel seen, and I'd really appreciate it. But with all that said, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.